Are you raising children, or are you forging future adults? It's a serious question, and one our modern world seems determined to get wrong. We are living in an era of soft parenting, an age where we retold our primary job is to build a child's self-esteem by clearing every obstacle from their path. We're encouraged to construct a bubble-wrapped reality for them, to shield them from discomfort, failure, and frustration, all in the name of a happy childhood. But in our frantic effort to protect them from the harshness of the world, we are failing to prepare them for the reality of it. We are giving them a map for a country that doesn't exist. The result? A generation of emotionally fragile, externally validated, and anxious young adults who crumble at the first sign of genuine pressure. They have been trained to expect the world to adapt to them, and when it inevitably refuses, they break. I am not a parenting expert. I am a strategist. For decades, my arena was the tech industry, a world of brutal competition and constant volatility. I built companies, I managed hundreds of people, and I learned that success is not about having the best product, it's about having the most resilient team. It's about the mental fortitude of the people in the room when everything goes wrong. But my most important lessons didn't come from the boardroom. They came from my own failures, from a burnout so severe it cost me my health and nearly my sanity. It was in that crucible, stripped of my success, that I discovered the timeless operating system I use to this day, the same one I used to raise my own children. Stoicism. This isn't about turning your child into an unfeeling robot, it's the opposite. It is about building an inner citadel, a fortress of calm, logic, and purpose within them that no external chaos can breach. It's about teaching them not what to think, but how to think. In this video, I will give you the blueprint. We will go through the core Stoic principles that will allow you to stop managing a child's fleeting emotions and start architecting their character. This is your guide to forging unbreakable minds. The first and most critical pillar in this entire structure is what the Stoic philosopher Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. It is the simple, yet profound, understanding that some things in life are within our control and some things are not. Within our control are our judgments, our responses, our actions, our character. Outside of our control is, well, almost everything else. The weather, the economy, the actions of other people, the outcome of a soccer game, whether or not they get invited to a birthday party. The modern crisis of anxiety is fueled by a fundamental misunderstanding of this principle. We spend our lives trying to control the uncontrollable, and in doing so, we surrender the only thing we truly own, our own mind. I learned this the hard way. I was about to close the biggest deal of my career, a merger that would have set my company up for a decade. We had worked for a year on it. Everything was aligned. Then, overnight, a geopolitical event halfway across the world spooked the markets. The deal was dead. I was furious. I raged at my team, at the news, at the universe. My mind was a storm of blame and victimhood. I felt powerless. It was only after days of this self-inflicted torture that a line from Marcus Aurelius came back to me. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The event was external, my reaction to it was internal. I couldn't control the market, but I could control my response. I gathered my team, and instead of mourning, we strategized. That failure forced us to innovate in a way we never would have otherwise, and the company became stronger for it. This is the lesson you must model and teach. When your son strikes out to end the baseball game, his initial reaction will be frustration. He'll blame the umpire, the bat, the sun in his eyes. This is where you intervene. Your job is not to say, "It's okay, you'll win next time." That's a platitude. Your job is to guide him with logic. Ask him, was the umpire's call in your control? No. Was the pitcher's throw in your control? No. Was your focus, your practice, your swing, was that in your control? Yes. The goal is to shift his focus from the uncontrollable outcome to his controllable effort. This is how you transform a moment of disappointment into a lesson in personal agency. You teach him that his value is not in the trophy, but in the integrity of his effort. So, ask yourself this. When your child fails, are you teaching them to look for someone to blame? Or are you teaching them to look inward at their own actions? Are you conditioning them to be a victim of circumstance or the commander of their response? Once a child understands what they can control, the next task is to teach them how to control it, specifically how to regulate their own emotional weather. A mind that is slave to every fleeting feeling, anger, fear, jealousy, frustration, is a mind that cannot think clearly, act wisely, or lead effectively. The Stoics taught that our emotions are not external forces that happen to us, but are products of our judgments about events. It's not the traffic jam that makes you angry, it's your judgment that the traffic jam is a terrible, unfair thing that is ruining your day. The power lies in creating a space between the event and our response to it. I call this the sacred pause. Early in my career, I was a reactor. If an employee made a mistake, my temper was instant and sharp. I saw it as a sign of strength, of high standards. In reality, it was a sign of weakness, a lack of self-control. One day, a brilliant young engineer I was mentoring made a coding error that cost us a week of development time and a significant amount of money. My first impulse was to unleash a torrent of rage, but I was just beginning to practice these principles, and I forced myself to pause. I left the office, walked around the block, and focused only on my breathing. In that quiet space, logic returned. What would my anger accomplish? It would humiliate a valuable team member, create a culture of fear, and solve nothing. I went back inside, sat down with him, and said, "The first step is to fix the problem. The second step is to understand why it happened so we can build a system to prevent it from happening again. Let's begin." That response transformed him. He became my most loyal and innovative leader because he knew he could take risks without fear of personal destruction. I had modeled emotional control. You must do the same. You are the thermostat for your family's emotional climate. When your child is having a tantrum, your anger only adds fuel to their fire. Instead, you must become the calm, unshakable center. I teach a technique called the fortress of inner peace. When your child is overwhelmed, have them practice this with you. Tell them to close their eyes and imagine a place in their mind, a fortress, a quiet room, a forest, that is entirely theirs. No one can enter without their permission. It is a place of absolute calm and safety. Teach them that when the storm of anger or fear rises, they can retreat to this fortress for a moment to think. This isn't suppression, it's regulation. It's the sacred pause made tangible. You are giving them a tool to manage their own mind, a tool that will serve them for the rest of their life, long after you're gone. Consider this. When your child sees you face a setback, a financial stress, a professional disappointment, a simple argument, do they see a man ruled by his emotions, or do they see a commander of his own mind? What you model in those moments is the lesson they will remember forever. Our culture is obsessed with comfort. We have temperature-controlled homes, food delivered to our door, and endless entertainment a click away. We have engineered struggle out of our daily lives. In doing so, we have created an environment that is profoundly corrosive to the human spirit. Seneca, one of the great Stoic minds, wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." If you intentionally shield your child from all hardship, you are not protecting them, you are weakening them. You are denying them the friction necessary to build resilience. This is why the third pillar is the practice of voluntary discomfort. This isn't about cruelty or needless deprivation. It's about strategic training. It is the conscious decision to introduce small, manageable doses of hardship to build psychological and emotional muscle. Think of it like a vaccine. a small, controlled exposure to a pathogen that stimulates the immune system so it can handle a real infection. Voluntary discomfort is a vaccine against the inevitable hardships of life. In my reckless pursuit of success, I was forced into discomfort. My first company was built on a shoestring budget. There were nights I slept in the office because I couldn't afford both rent and server costs. It was miserable at the time, but it forged a mindset in me that money could never buy. It taught me resourcefulness, gratitude for small wins, and an absolute confidence that I could not just survive, but thrive, with very little. When I later found financial success, I never lost that iron core, because it was forged in the fire of scarcity, not the ease of abundance. You must be the architect of this friction for your children. This must be age-appropriate, of course. For a young child, it can be as simple as enforcing a rule: no screen time until all chores are done, without exception. It's delaying gratification. It's teaching them that effort precedes reward. For a teenager, it could be encouraging them to get a summer job doing manual labor. It could be a family challenge to take cold showers for a week, not as a punishment, but as a shared exercise in mental toughness. It could be a weekend camping trip where they have to deal with bugs, bad weather, and the lack of modern convenience. The goal of these exercises is to allow them to experience the profound satisfaction of overcoming something difficult. It recalibrates their definition of hard and proves to them that their comfort zone is a limitation, not a sanctuary. So I ask you, are you building a comfortable cage for your child, padded with instant gratification and devoid of challenge? Or are you providing them with the training, the tools, and the controlled friction they need to navigate the unforgiving wilderness of the real world? What is the goal of all this? What is the purpose of building a resilient, self-controlled mind? Is it simply to achieve more, to win more, to accumulate more? No. For the Stoics, the ultimate goal, the very definition of a successful life, was living a life of virtue. Everything else, wealth, health, reputation, success, was considered an indifferent. Not because they were worthless, but because they were external and not essential to a good life. A person could have all of them and be miserable, or none of them and be profoundly fulfilled. The only true good is a virtuous character. This is the most radical and perhaps the most important lesson you can impart. The 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism are wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. In a world that screams at our children to focus on their GPA, their follower count, and their future salary, you must be the voice that relentlessly steers them back to their character. I once faced a critical moment in my business where a competitor was spreading false rumors about my company to poach a major client. My entire executive team advised me to fight fire with fire, to leak some damaging but true information about them. It would have been effective, and in their eyes, it was just business. But it would have been an act of vengeance, not justice. I chose instead to meet with the client, address the rumors directly with facts, and operate with complete integrity. We lost the client in the short term, but over the years, my reputation for unwavering honesty became my company's single greatest asset. I taught my team, and later my children, that how you do something is always more important than what you achieve. This is what it means to make virtue the highest good. You must weave it into the fabric of your family's daily life. Instead of asking your child, "Did you win the game?" ask, "Did you play with courage and good sportsmanship?" Instead of just praising the A on their test, praise the discipline and perseverance it took to earn it. Frame their challenges in the language of virtue. A difficult conversation they need to have with a friend isn't something to be feared, it's an opportunity to practice courage. Sharing their toys isn't just being nice, it's an exercise in justice and fairness. Cleaning their room without being asked is not just a chore, it's an act of temperance and self-discipline. By reframing their world this way, you shift their internal scoreboard away from the shallow metrics of society and toward the enduring measure of their own character. Here is the question that cuts to the core. What are you celebrating in your home? Are you celebrating external achievements that are ultimately outside of their complete control, or are you celebrating the internal victories of character that are always within their grasp? There will come times in your child's life, as in your own, when things go irrevocably wrong. A dream will die. A relationship will end. A failure will be total and undeniable. It is in these moments that all of this training is truly tested. The final piece of the Stoic operating system for parenting is perhaps the most profound. Amor fati, a Latin phrase that means a love of one's fate. This is not a passive resignation to whatever happens. It is an active, enthusiastic embrace of reality in its entirety. It is the ability to not just tolerate your life, but to love it, exactly as it is, with all its imperfections, struggles, and tragedies. It is the mindset that says, this thing that happened, this setback, this pain, it is not an obstacle on my path, it is the path. My burnout was the single worst and best thing that ever happened to me. For months, I saw it as a catastrophic failure, a symbol of my weakness. I was filled with regret and wished for nothing more than to turn back time. I was fighting reality, and it was destroying me. The shift came when I began to apply the principle of amor fati. What if this burnout wasn't a punishment, but a lesson? What if this wasn't the end of my story, but a necessary plot twist to put me on the right one? I began to see it as a gift. The burnout forced me to confront the emptiness of my ambition. It compelled me to rebuild my mind on a foundation of philosophy instead of ego. It led me to the very work I do today. I wouldn't trade that painful experience for anything, because it made me who I am. I learned to love that part of my fate. This is the perspective you must give your children. You are the custodian of your family's narrative. You can frame your family history as a series of unfortunate events, or you can frame it as a story of resilience. Talk about your ancestors. Talk about the hardships they faced, immigration, poverty, war, loss, but don't tell these stories as tragedies. Tell them as epics. Show your children how adversity revealed your family's strength, how setbacks were turned into setups for future growth. When your child faces their own inevitable heartbreak or failure, they will have this narrative framework. They can see their struggle not as an anomaly to be lamented, but as their turn to forge their own chapter in the family's story of resilience. You teach them to look at any situation and ask the most powerful question there is, how can I use this? So, reflect on this. Do you speak of your own past hardships with bitterness and regret, or with a sense of gratitude for the strength they forged in you? Are you teaching your children to wish for an easier life, or are you modeling how to love and find opportunity within the one they have? Knowledge is useless without application. Reading about these principles is one thing, weaving them into the DNA of your family is another entirely. Philosophy cannot remain in a book on the shelf. It must be lived, practiced, and breathed every single day. The final step is to establish a set of simple, consistent, daily Stoic practices. These are the routines and rituals that transform abstract ideas into ingrained habits of mind. Consistency is the engine of character. What you do every day matters far more than what you do once in a while. In my own life, my non-negotiables are my morning and evening routines. When I wake, before I look at a phone or email, I spend a few minutes in what the Stoics called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds grim, but it's incredibly empowering. I simply consider the things that could go wrong in the day ahead: a difficult meeting, a technical failure, a conflict with a colleague. I visualize myself responding to these events with calm, with logic, with virtue. I am rehearsing for reality. Then, in the evening, I conduct a review. I ask myself 3 questions based on the teachings of Seneca. What did I do wrong today? What did I do right? What could I have done differently? This isn't about self-flagellation. It's a calm, objective performance review of my own character. This simple 10-minute daily habit has been the primary driver of my growth. You must create a version of this for your family. Make it a ritual. The dinner table is the perfect arena. Instead of the generic, "How was your day?" which always gets the answer fine, ask Stoic questions. Ask, "What was one thing today that was outside of your control, and how did you handle it?" Ask, "Where did you have a chance to practice courage today?" Or, "When were you tempted to get angry, and what did you do instead?" This turns your family dinner into a training ground for virtue. One family I mentored created a win jar. At the end of each day, any family member could write down a Stoic win, a moment they controlled their temper, faced a fear, or focused on their effort instead of the outcome, and place it in the jar. Every Sunday, they would read them aloud. They weren't celebrating trophies or grades, they were celebrating moments of character. They were making philosophy a living, breathing part of their family culture. This doesn't need to be complex. The power is in the repetition. A small hinge can swing a great door. These small daily practices are the hinges that will swing the door of your child's character open to a life of resilience, purpose, and inner peace. We've covered the blueprint. It begins with the dichotomy of control, understanding the difference between what is yours to command and what is not. From there, you teach emotional regulation, giving your child the tools to create a fortress of inner peace. You strengthen them through voluntary discomfort, strategically introducing friction to build resilience. You anchor them with the ultimate goal, virtue as the highest good, shifting their focus from external achievement to internal character. You empower them with amor fati, the ability to love their fate and find opportunity in every obstacle. And finally, you make it all real through daily Stoic practices, turning philosophy from a theory into a way of life. This is not the easy path. It requires more of you than the soft parenting our culture promotes. It requires you to first master yourself. You cannot give your children a map to a territory you have not explored. You must become the living embodiment of the calm, logical, and virtuous leader you wish for them to be. Your actions will always be their most powerful lesson. The world does not need more fragile, anxious people. It needs a new generation of leaders, of creators, of problem solvers. It needs men and women of character, with minds of iron and hearts of courage. The work of forging them begins with you, in your home, today. My challenge to you is this: do not try to implement all of this at once. Choose one. Choose the one principle that resonates most deeply with you, the one that addresses the biggest challenge you face in your home right now, and for the next 7 days, apply it with absolute consistency. Model it, teach it, discuss it, see what changes. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me, what is the single biggest parenting struggle you're facing right now? Let's use this space not for complaining, but for strategizing. Let us, as a community of fathers and mentors, help one another forge the iron minds of the next generation.